Married couples who sleep in separate rooms. Why do you do this? My parents do this. My mom likes to sleep with the TV on. My dad snores and steals sheets. My mother claims sleeping separately saved their marriage. Sounds like me and my husband, except my husband doesn't steal the sheets. He lays on them and I have to either wake him up or use all my strength to pull the sheets from under him, monsieur. My grandma and granddad do. She likes it freezing and he likes it boiling. Related but not. My grandparents may share a bed but they do have separate margarine containers. He's the scraper. Likes to keep the top of the margarine smooth. She just digs the knife in. They've been married 50-something years and have had this two-margarine system for as long as I remember. That's the way to solve those stupid problems. Also, e.g. if one always eats the other's food because they're not hungry enough to order their own. Just order a small thing for them anyway and take it home if they end up not eating it. Girlfriend's parents do this. They both snore and do it to get away from each other's snoring. I didn't think it was that bad until they talked about having to sleep in the same bed during their trip in Europe. They were at each other's throats because if one fell asleep, the other couldn't. Had a roommate in a hotel that snored so loud we would drag him sleeping into the bathroom and close the door. He seriously sounded like a snoring cartoon. Snonku. Different sleep cycles and work schedules. He wakes up 3 hours before me. I'm a shift worker, she's a teacher. Your house hunter's budget is $1.6 million. Edit. Thanks for the prizes. Glad I was able to amuse. I'm a stay-at-home mom and my husband runs a tech startup. It's a dating site for dolphins. Our budget is $2.2 million. I'm a volunteer drama teacher and my wife makes custom paper match umbrellas and our budget for our first home is a modest $4.5 million. During the summer I moved to another room we call the wind tunnel. Basically I have a ceiling fan going almost 24/7 and a window fan above the bed I run from 7 p.m. - 8 a.m. Monsieur. She has allergies and easily gets runny nose and sneezes from any moving air. My body temp will skyrocket and I'll sweat like crazy in a room devoid of moving air. So she sleeps in a stuffy no-air movement master bedroom and I sleep soundly in the wind tunnel. During the winter I move back. Cause then I become the ultimate body warmer for her. My stepmother's parents took this to a new level. He built a second house next door. They lived next to each other for 20 years before they both passed in a short amount of time. It seemed very odd to me. But it worked for the monsieur, at least from an outside perspective. I know images never reflect reality. Not exactly the same. But I had a great aunt and uncle who had some kind of huge disagreement early in their marriage and never spoke to each other again even though they lived together. They slept in different rooms. And he spent most of his time at home in his garden. She took care of the house, cooked his meals, did his laundry, etc., etc. He went to work and paid the bills. At family gatherings the men would hang out with the husband in one room and the women with the wife in another. They remained married that way the rest of their lives. When he died she was apparently utterly devastated. That is really interesting. We're both 41, been married 23 years and sleep in different beds. First half of our marriage we always slept in the same bed. Of course there was the occasional crying kid who wanted mommy to sleep with them. Or falling asleep on the couch or somewhere else. About 10 years ago I spent a year working a midnight shift so I started sleep on our spare bed in the basement. We both realized we had much better sleep separate in our own beds. After I went back to a day shift we went back to sleeping in the same bed and soon realized sleeping apart was more restful. Over time we bought 2 full-size beds and put them in our bedroom. Like the old TV shows. It's been great. Edit. So a lot of comments about intimacy. Yeah, we have sex. I'd say every bit as much as we ever did in the past. We've been married over half our life so we are really good at knowing when fun time is going to happen. Sometimes we sleep in the same bed. There is no rules, we have to sleep separately all the time. Our beds are about a foot apart and sometimes we slide them together. Especially when the kids were younger and they'd end up in our room. Along with the dog. Edit 2. Yes, we got married at 18. We went to prom together and girlfriend somehow got pregnant after prom when we stopped for soda. So we got married. We both realized we had much better sleep as the ultimate answer to this question. I snore and I'm also easily disturbed by movement. So I'm happier in my own bed. And so is my partner. We've settled on separate beds in the same room, which is the sweet spot for us. It's easy to transition from cuddling to sleeping whenever we're ready. Great, this works for you guys. I'm so different. I sleep better when I can feel his body nearby, even if we are not touching. Must be psychological for me. But I have a harder time falling asleep when I go to bed without him. Or much earlier. Spouse snores, 2 60-pound dogs, and a queen-size bed. No room for me and I need dead silence. You want dead silence and have 2 dogs sleeping on your bed? I'm guessing the dogs are in the other bed. If I even try to sleep on the couch in another room, I will wake up to her on top of me. That's funny but sweet as hell. Greater than sweet as hell. Not related, but this reminds me of the theory that Willy Wonka's chocolate factory was actually his childhood version of Dante's Inferno. Edit. This is a theory I just made up to have something interesting to say. But the more I think of it, it makes sense. Would love to see a remake with a darker, horror-type theme maybe. Maybe not. IDK. Interesting theory. I dig it. Is this your SO or your dog? Scully, is Kelly your wife or your dog? How can you ask me that? I still don't know. My parents slept in separate beds, as did my great-grandparents. For my great-grandparents it was a comfort thing. Grandma didn't like not being able to move around the bed at will. She and Grandpa loved each other dearly and she passed not long after he did because she missed him so much. For my parents it was a couple things. As my dad aged, his sleep cycle went weird. He would be able to sleep a couple hours and then be up half the night and fall asleep again about the time my mom was getting up for work. Also, my mom has sleep apnea and uses a CPAP. It made hella noise back then. Dad was half deaf and the sound still bothered him. Monsieur, out of respect for each other, they decided it was better to have separate bedrooms. This makes me feel better about my husband and I not sharing a bed. Haha. Some people act like that means your marriage is falling apart. Honestly, it helps us love each other more because I'm not up multiple times a night with his tossing and turning. And he's not up all night listening to my snoring. My wife has MS. One of the primary issues she has is vertigo. When I'm in the bed with her, the motion of my breathing, heartbeat, movement really fucks with her vertigo while she sleeps. Also, I snore, so an isolated coil mattress wouldn't quite do it. They aren't total isolation, either. You feel movement, or 2 beds in one room is your. Also, honestly, it spices up the sex life, adds an element of pursuit and some illicit atmosphere to it. We're sneaking around the house to each other's beds to bang. This sounds encouraging. Every story that I've read so far seems really positive in the sleep section. But I was wondering what happened with the sexy time. It sounds really cool that it spices up things. Sometimes I have to sleep on the couch cause I get hypersensitive to sound. Especially human sound. And don't like the noise his whole existence makes. He gets it luckily. Misophonia. Real thing. It bothered me as a kid. But I really noticed noises when I came back from overseas. Hypersensitive now. I am actually surprised misophonia has not ended up being a reason for a percentage of violent crimes and disorders. I don't believe it's even on the newest DS, monsieur. I have misophonia. I don't like the sound of people drinking something or pouring liquid into something. I have to walk out of the room if it's happening because it makes my blood boil, not exaggerating. We blended two households. His bedroom was fully furnished and the furniture and closet were full. It made sense for my stuff to go in a different bedroom. Monsieur, we started out sleeping in one room or the other, but I realized pretty quickly that if I ever wanted to get a full night's sleep, it wasn't going to be in the same bed with Monsieur. I've been known to call him a sweating, snoring, slant sleeping son of a bitch after a night of his sweating, snoring, and slant sleeping. We do it your place or mine thing for non-sleeping activities, but GTFO when it's sleepy time. Greater than I've been known to call him a sweating, snoring, slant sleeping son of a bitch. Well, that seems a bit harsh. Greater than after a night of his sweating, snoring, and slant sleeping. Oh, right then. He's a lovely person when he's awake. Sleeping, not so much. He snores. I have a casual acquaintance that I know sleeps in a different room than his wife. I was curious about why, but I felt it was too personal to ask. And then we went on a bachelor party and I stayed in the same room as Monsieur when we heard him snore. We all knew why. Sometimes my GF and I sleep in different rooms, and the reasons often differ. Did I eat a big bean burrito earlier? Separate rooms, just an example. Also, unless your bed is massive, sleeping with someone next to you can make it more difficult to sleep. Yes, sleeping together is romantic, but getting good sleep is more romantic. Surprised I don't see a Bowser's Big Bean Burrito joke here. Lol, I do this. I am an absolute terrible person to share a bed with. I snore like a passing semi-truck and apparently, I'm told, flail wildly in my sleep. When we first got married I kept waking up to an empty bed. She would join me for an hour until I was asleep, then retreat to the couch. After a week or two I got fed up and just went to the couch first, then started several months of us trading off for the couch. Eventually I just went and bought a twin mattress and tossed it in the office. That became my bed, and when we got a bigger house, I just set up in a separate room. Monsieur, have you been checked for sleep apnea? A lot of people don't realize they have it or how bad it's gotten until they get hooked up to a CPAP for the first time in a sleep study. OMG this. I hate the mask but, literally, can't live without it, like I die. It's bad. If the sleep apnea didn't kill me my wife would, because I snore like a poorly maintained diesel engine. I have a hard time falling asleep without something to distract my brain from thinking. I usually watch a show, documentary or do some repetitive game on my phone to accomplish this. She can't stand the lights from the screen. OMG, my wife kills me with that damn phone screen at night. She can't fathom why it bothers me. Wear a sleeping mask. I love mine, it's silky. Friends of mine do this. She doesn't like him and feels he's a terrible husband and father. He won't divorce her because it'll cost him his standing in the church, which is the only level of social prestige he has. He's verbally abusive and initially she did it as a wake-up call to encourage him to nicen up. It's going on its 4th year. So what, that it will change his status in the church? He's a shit person. Yeah, I may be an asshole but I would find out why he acts this way as a man of God and probably be of he's a dick just at him at church and make him lose his standing anyway. Not separate rooms, but a king bed and separate blankets. We sleep way better. I am a notorious blanket hog and he's always hot when he sleeps. Then we can be close when we want to and separate when we need a good sleep. My husband and I have used separate blankets since right after he first moved in when we were dating. For the same reasons. I'm a blanket hog and love a thick comforter. He can make do with just a thin sheet. My buddy is basically married and they have this arrangement. Basically they say they aren't one person just because they're dating. They don't want to be the couple who merges into one entity. They are two separate adults and adults have their own rooms. They're two of the most capable and competent people I've ever met in my life. they have their shit figured out. They are the reason I no longer view two separate rooms as a sign of a dysfunctional relationship. If anything, they make me think most relationships would benefit from their "let's not do literally everything together" mentality. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.